minutes, so we'll call this meeting of the Senate Election Law and Municipal Affairs Committee to order. And if I had a motion to go into executive session, so moved, and I'll second it. Okay, we have a motion and second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We are in executive session. Okay, going right down through the list. The Senate Bill 82, just to recap, we put that in Senate Bill 49, so we're going to hold that in case we need a bill to do something with. The next bill on the list is 383. 383, both Senator Perkins Cook and Senator Murphy, I think, were both working on that, right? Or was it just Murphy?
That was just Senator Murphy, Chair.
That was what?
That was just Senator Murphy.
Okay, so we'll come back to that one when Senator Murphy gets here. 448. We held 2 working sessions with the people from Haverhill and the people from Woodsville. Where we are right now is structuring it so that they would not be in chapter law anymore for the majority of everything they do. It would be under regular law, and they'd be under chapter 52, which is the regular village district thing. But it's got a provision in there that will go into chapter law that says if you can't come to some agreement, then you have to, and then it spells out what you have to compensate Woodsville for the fire district and for the highway department. But it gives them, and actually any other town that has a village district in the state, the ability to sign agreements to codify relationships dealing with financial issues. The last draft of that, or pre-draft, I should say, I just sent to Senator Perkins Coca, so that she's going to review that and tell me how wrong I was and what I did, which is perfectly fine. So that will come up again next time. Campaign finance. We held on that last time because we wanted to give you a week to review it.
Yes.
Where are we?
Did have a few concerns. If you want me to
Sure.
walk through them, I'm happy to do so.
And what are you using as the base? 055
The
amendment?
amendments, yep.
055?
Yep.
I mean, 555.
Have it in
Did you-
bag, but I have the notes. Second. Doing a lot this weekend.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so. Do you not have that amendment? Oh, okay.
Tell you what we'll
That
do.
was the last version. I looked at it online. I thought I had given myself a copy.
Yeah, all right. We'll hold on that until we get,
Copies?
yeah,
Okay.
and then we'll come right back to it. The next one on the list is allowing the processing of absentee ballots. I wrote an amendment to that and sent it to Senator Susie to work with her on that. It basically adds back in the ability to not use the outer envelopes on anything that is not mailed. If it's returned to the clerks in person, whether by the person or by a helper or whatever, it does not need to be in the outer envelope, which provides, and it tells the clerk that they should review the affidavit to make sure there's no obvious errors in the affidavit that would preclude. It tells them to use the information such as a phone number and a email address to notify the voter that there was a problem. So I'll turn it back over to you, Senator Susie, if you think there's
So
major
I
things to be
did-
done with it or whatever, then we'll give them the copy after it gets
So I
drafted.
did- Yeah, so I did speak to a couple of the clerks. My clerk was going to get back to me from Manchester, but he was also going to speak to the leadership of the Clerks Association, and I did not hear back this morning.
One thing that was in the original is they were allowing people to cross off names and write the red AV. And other parts of the statute, when you put that red AV in there, that means that the person has voted. And therefore, you would not be able to go in on election day because the red AV would be there and the clerk would say, you've already voted. So I did take that out. I went back to what we did for the COVID, and that was allow them to highlight the thing, you know, so that it's easy to find. But so many people now are transitioning to poll books anyway.
Yeah, and that was one of the other questions, was how that would work with the poll books.
And with the poll books, you don't do anything different. When it's processed through the poll book, you know, then it's processed through the poll book. All right, so that's in the works. And until I get it back from OLS, I can't really send you this stuff. But that's what is in there. So, okay. And then the last bill we've got there is the zoning procedures concerning residential housing. And Senator Abbas and Senator Murphy were supported the changes. Was it, somebody asked me to put this on hold. It says amendment still in process.
So, if I may, Chair.
Yours should be right there. Yeah, you go for it.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I have been working with Senator Murphy. We had a good meeting to go through the bill section by section and provide some feedback. I also have had a chance to incorporate feedback received from some of the parties that testified, and so incorporated language requested by the New Hampshire Association of Realtors. I know that Senator Abbott made some comments concerning lot size in section 7, and those have not fully been incorporated yet. So if we have time, I would welcome feedback on this amendment and maybe a chance just to have a one-on-one conversation with Senator Abbott and make sure he's
Okay,
comfortable, but I welcome any other feedback.
this is not an FN bill, and I'd rather get it right than get it wrong twice. Senator Bradley.
At the risk of not being a member of this committee, but having looked at this bill pretty carefully, I think there's a lot of good pieces in the bill. Sections, well, let me just talk about section 7. Section 7 is what towns should be doing on their own, but requiring it is a problem. And I don't think it'll pass the Senate. I'll just be honest with you, based on the number of people that have talked to me.
Okay.
And knowing what'll happen, in all likelihood, when it gets to the House, it'd be my recommendation to strike section 7 in total.
Okay. And
If we're not going to do anything with section 7, and section 7 was the thing that we were going to hold on, then is there any reason to continue to hold it?
if as I've said many times to you guys, I want to see as much of this bill as can get through, and so I'm hopeful that we can work together to have something that we can all vote on. There is the opportunity, and Senator Bradley, I welcome your feedback on this, to separate inside of section 7. There's provisions for land that is on water and sewer and land that is not on water and sewer. So we could retain one of those.
All right.
But
so
if they're both
let me-
problematic.
Senator,
So I would just say this, I remember when think it was Representative Ivy a couple of years ago had a bill that would have allowed 4 units per acre, as I believe, on water and sewer. I got more feedback negatively from towns in the Lakes region that have water and sewer on shorefront property as to what the impact of it would be. So I would still be opposed to it. Is it something that town should be doing and looking at? Absolutely. That's where your champions comes in. But I just think it's premature at this point to like usurp local control to that extent. I think a one size fits all may work in some areas on water and sewer, but not others. So,
Yep.
I mean, any area that is in the shorefront zone would be a problem.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of areas that have water and sewer that are in the shoreline protection
Yep.
zone. So,
Yeah, and I think, there's also been some information shared. I haven't had a chance to verify that. We may not have enough mapping on the DES rules to fully implement this. So as I've said multiple times, if Section 7 is problematic and, we think it'll be an issue to get through, then I'd be happy to honor committee amendment chair to remove Section 7 and
Well,
proceed to vote on the rest of the bill, but we can also,
Senator Murphy,
Drafted in.
you were mentioned in wanting some revisions to 7. Probably the best thing to do for right now is to let the two of you try to work it out. Certainly working with the Senate President to make sure that his concerns are addressed, and we'll deal with it next week.
okay.
I think we're 90% of the way there. I think this is all in all, it's a very good piece of legislation.
All right, so going back,
Thanks, guys.
we had Senate Bill 383, and we had the Murphy amendment, and we held that till you got here, so.
Thank you. I did look over the amendment. Appears to me that it addressed the concerns brought forward at the hearing by the Municipal Association. I'd be interested in hearing from the other committee members as far as if they had any concerns or if they were satisfied with it.
Discussion. Senator Murphy moves ought to pass.
Amendment
Well,
0790.
we gotta take this one first.
Okay.
I will second the ought to
Hold on,
pass
Rusty.
motion. All right, Senator Murphy also ought to pass on amendment 2024-0790S, and I will second that one also. Discussion on the amendment.
I would just say, I think that some of the changes made do improve the process, but for the school district part, I have some concerns just about the way you're doing ADMR and, or the attendance portion, to be more clear. I just think it would be, I think communities would go into it thinking it's easier than, because other communities have tax caps than this would be particularly. So for those reasons, I don't support it, but as I said, the amendment at least improves on the original.
Further discussion. Voting on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
And we have 3-2. Discussion on the bill as amended. Seeing none. All those in favor of the bill as amended say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Okay.
And 3-2, Senator Murphy,
Yes, sir.
you get to take it out.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we also held campaign finance. We were waiting for the copies to come. And for anyone that's here for the hearing, we will start it in just a couple of minutes. There's only one person signed up on the sheet, so.
The amendment.
Here, Representative, you can sign up on that one if you're here for the first one. Okay,
I gave you my copy. Did he? Thank you.
who's,
Thank you.
I need one because I was doing it
Yeah.
online.
Sorry.
I don't know if Senator Bradley has.
Yes, you do.
Okay. So, I know we have to be on time for our hearing, so let me just review
Well-
the concerns quickly. The changes in section 3, which begin on page 6. I think that
that's line 21, page 6.
Right, so that's where it begins. I think in light of the language that we had put into the budget last time around, the transfers between committees, I think the way the amendment is crafted will create new confusion. So the way the current statute is, it currently spells out how much can be given for each phase of the campaign. So it's exploratory, primary, and then general election. But the way the amendment is written, it could leave it open to interpretation that candidates could now receive 15,000 per phase rather than the 5.
You can send me language that you think will,
Okay, so that was,
that'll fix it, and then we'll get it, you and I'll negotiate.
okay. I'm happy to do that. Then on page 5, in line 19.
And we'll also get the Secretary of State's office involved in that.
So, page 5, line 19,
Page 5, line 19.
so this seems to remove, currently there's an exclusion for political committees of political parties. So for example, the Rochester Democratic Committee. This would seem to require that every county committee and every town committee that doesn't currently have to register with the Secretary of State now would have to. So they currently report their fund, but they don't have to register as a political committee. They come under the umbrella of the parties. So this would seem to create a new requirement for all of our towns that participate in elections. And if that's the intent,
But don't all the towns have to file statements of financial
they
report?
have to file statements, but they don't have to register as committees. And
But if
that's
they
the
don't
part on
register as,
19.
if they don't register as a committee, then they're not in the database.
They have an exemption because they're a committee of the political
All right.
party,
Well-
is my understanding. And
This is another one.
the Secretary of State may weigh in. So that was the other issue. And then in section 8, we are now, let me get the page. That part was a little unclear to me. So in section 8, which is on page 10, the requirement is going to be that everyone register using the online campaign finance system, and I understand there's a new one that's going to be rolled out. Does that then mean that everybody has to use the campaign finance system for filing their receipts and expenditures? This, the way it's written, would lead me to believe it does.
That is certainly their intent to get us there, whether this does it or not. So again, that's another one we
Okay,
can,
those were the 3 things. That's
and
what I had.
I'll ask Deb to schedule a meeting, and then the 3 of us can sit down and
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
do it. All right, so that one is on hold. So I guess the only thing we did is one bill today. So I'll take a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye, we are out of executive session. And in just a minute, we will start the hearing. Um,
Yeah, I think there was a big issue. Good. I wanted to ask you on this. So we're not meeting until Tuesday.
Right. Yeah.
So has BIA brought in
Meeting with
to the amount? Okay. That's it. It's
Yeah.
good.
You know, he's like, I can't like come support it
Right.
necessarily. And this individual, he's like, this is something that needs to happen. It's a very reasonable, like, it doesn't change the contribution amount, but originally there's the like the cost analysis and all that kind of stuff. And to help that, I had the house bill in terms of
I did get back.
change the age replacement value. So his was more expensive.
We both, Mark McKenzie.
Yes.
Okay.
So we both presented to the automatic like commission
Mhm.
and basically Rich has been able to be like, that's a reasonable cost. So, yeah, it's BA then.
Is it okay if I share this with Mark McKenzie? So that he knows?
Of
Okay.
course,
Does he have
yeah.
a copy anyway?
I don't know.
Okay.
I owe him a
He's
phone call.
from Manchester, so I know Mark. He's former president of the AFL-CIO and retired firefighter. But I told him that we were working on your version. He said, well, I have one coming over. I'd like to be able to.
Yeah.
So I just wanted.
By the way,
But I
he
was-
called me right around the time that my mom passed on. So just
Yeah,
apologize for me because I owed him a call.
No worries, no
Yeah.
worries. I wouldn't share it with him without it.
Oh, no, yeah, please, please. Thank you for doing that.
Apparently one of our sheets is like gone missing.
I think it might be next to Senator. Oh,
Oh, okay.
No man's land. No,
Sorry?
it's all good. It's all good. It was just floating around over here. We got a lot of stuff. Okay.
I tried to be prepared.
We'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 70 if we're all set. And who's here to introduce the bill? House Bill 70? If not, I'll do it.
Yes, no.
Okay. Senator Murphy, I'm going to let you do it right from your chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to introduce House Bill 70, relative to register requirements for deputy town clerks.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Going right to the sheets. NHMA. We'll call you up first before the secretary, so he can address any issues you bring up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nate Grays for the Municipal Association. We do support this bill as it came out of the House. So just to give you a bit of background here, the law that's being adjusted here was originally enacted in the early 2000s. As far as I'm aware, the intent was to allow deputy town clerks who were not residents but were currently serving at that time in a deputy town clerk role to continue serving until there could be an adjustment so that they would also be residents of the town. For whatever reason, that was not changed a few years later, so that there was this ambiguity in the law that was confusing for a number of people. As amended by the House and sent over to the Senate, I believe this clarifies that by ensuring that I believe it's very clear now deputy town clerks must also be residents of the town for which they serve. I believe that everyone is on the same page at this point in time, so this is just realistically a technical correction. I'm happy to take any questions the committee may have.
The question I would have is if I were unhappy with the situation and wanted the election duties transferred to somebody else during the period of time that your town clerk or acting town clerk was not a resident, comments on that?
My understanding, although I am certain that the secretary can correct me, is that the secretary's office has advised for a number of years now that the deputy must also be a resident of the town. And as such, I don't believe there are any non-resident deputies left. It's been about 20 years since this change went into effect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions from anyone else? Senator Perkins, Coca.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Thanks for taking my question. I guess the immediate thing that would occur to me, we went through a little bit of this conversation when I was in Portsmouth, but would be making sure that we have people who can fill the position at a salary that allows them to live in the place that they're serving. So I know in Portsmouth, for example, we had some trouble with that with many of our employee levels. So has that come up in the course of this legislation?
The bill as originally drafted would have allowed deputy town clerks to not be residents of the town that they serve. We supported that initially. However, we recognized that it's important to have clarity in the law one way or another. The House made a policy decision, and we support that decision.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Secretary of State David Scanlon. I really don't have a lot to add to what Nate just testified to. I agree with the position that he took, but I will try and address the question that has been posed. A town clerk is a constitutional position, and the requirement to be elected to town clerk is that you have to be a registered voter in the town, which means that you have to meet all of the requirements to be qualified to be on the voter checklist, which means you have to have your domicile in the town, or if it's a city, in the ward in which you are going to serve. I know that there have been some issues in the past with some, maybe particularly small towns, where it is difficult sometimes to have residents of the town step forward to fulfill that role. There's nothing to preclude a clerk from getting assistance from outside of the town. That person, however, just cannot serve as the official deputy of the town. And I know that that has happened in many cases where there have been either retired clerks or active clerks that will provide assistance to other towns when there's a significant need.
Additional questions from anyone? Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Is there anyone who did not sign up that has changed their mind and does want to speak now? Seeing none, there were online, one in support and one in opposition. And with that, we will close the public hearing and we'll open the next public hearing as soon as we are ready. The next hearing is on House Bill 463. And are you ready? Okay. Paperwork in order here. Okay, and who's here to introduce? Okay, come on up. And we're ready for House Bill 463. And if you'd introduce yourself and the bill.
Good morning, members of the committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be brief, and the confusion I had with SB 70 was in great part explained by the fact that there was a bill before this committee that's largely this bill, which was SB 70, and the prime sponsor, Senator Gray, I believe Senator Susie might have been on it, Senator Perkins Quokka, and others. So I will do the testimonial equivalent of punting on second down by simply saying the election online portal bill that this the portal that this bill would establish is really the architecture of Senator Gray and others that have been working on this issue far longer than I have. You probably know more about it than I do. So, but I will just say, because of the zigzag nature of legislative lawmaking, here we are. It's HB 463, which started slightly differently in the House, was amended in the House, but now greatly reflects what was SB 70 in the last session, which created the online portal. I don't want to waste the committee's time, but I'm happy to answer questions on that, what the bill intends to do. But I have a suspicion that Senator Gray may be able to answer questions better than I can. But I'm happy.
But that's not how it works.
Okay. So
All right.
that's right. But I'm happy
Questions
to do
from
that.
committee members? Okay, I'll ask a few questions.
Okay.
Based on the emails we've gotten, there's a lot of people who think that you can go into the portal, log in, and finish an application and be registered to vote by the time you leave the portal. Is that the case?
That is not the case.
And
no.
who is the information sent to so that they can review it? Do you know that?
The information that you put on the portal, yes, it would go to your town clerk, your city election official. It's going to be verified the same way you would as if you were walking in there.
Is the procedure using the portal really any different than what is already allowed in state law? And that is to send in an email or to make a telephone call?
No, I mean, this is largely an efficiency. Great efficiencies will be captured with this, but nothing changes the requirements under current law with respect to what you need to show, how you need to register to vote. This is really an efficiency mechanism. And I would say the clerks and town folks that I've talked to like it because it will free up the time before election day, but also on election day when there's sort of that high volume of traffic. This is just going to drop that. So it's
Do any of the regulations on proving identity, proving domicile, proving citizenship, and age, do any of those change with this?
No, and I appreciate the volley of questions to highlight that point, that in the bill is pretty explicit about that too.
And does anything in this bill preclude the clerk or the supervisor from doing a video conference where they can see the documents, they could see say, a license or whatever over a video conference during that time?
No.
All right, that's all the questions I've got for you. Okay, anybody else want a question now? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
All right. And so everyone that signed up on the sheet is in support. We'll start at the top. Catherine, Open Democracy.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Catherine Langell, and I'm a 20.
Do you want Autumn to come up with you since you're both from Open Democracy?
Sure, why not? More the merrier, right?
We'll try to make it quicker.
That works. There you go. Works for us. Cool. So, for the record, my name is Catherine Langell. I'm a 20-year-old voter from Concord. I'm a student at St. Anselm College, and I am an Open Democracy Action's Public Policy Fellow. After examining this bill, we support this bill as amended coming out of the House. Current election law processes are not disregarded or overridden by this bill, as procedures like those described in RSA 65412, talking about identity, domicile, identification, are addressed and considered. Currently, 42 states, Washington, D.C., and Guam all have implemented online voter registration portals. So this is simply a matter of efficiency, kind of like Representative Page talked about. I will refer back to the statement of interest provided in lines 1 through 3 of the bill. Quote, "It is intent of the general court to modernize the application process for new voter registration." And I will say briefly that I described what this process might look like to my younger sister, who will be coming of age to vote in the next, not this general, but the next general, and she loved this idea. She thought that this would be super effective for her generation and those above us. So, with that, I'll go to Autumn.
Yeah, so I'm Autumn. I'm Autumn Rashik Goodwin, also with Open Democracy Action, a nonpartisan, nonprofit pro-voter organization with over 36,000 members. And I'm also supporting testimony in favor of HB 463. Echoing Catherine's points here, there's a lot of good with this bill that makes it more efficient for the average Joe. So a lot of people work during the hours of the town clerk's offices being open. So this would give them the opportunity to do this in their availability and get that ball rolling so that they're able to arrange things more effectively. Additionally, the electronic information portal could save local taxpayers money. Even without the cost of postage and printing, research shows that the processing of paper voter registration applications costs about $4.72 in staff time. So having this done electronically can help alleviate those costs. And that is largely it. It also helps with active duty members who may not be able to access a phone or be able to get a person during the specific hours that the town clerk's offices are open. And with that,
Happy to take questions.
Questions from the senators? Okay, I'll ask a question. Have you informed your sister that she can actually work the polls at 17? If she contacts the moderator?
I have. Unfortunately, she's currently 16, so she's not going to be able to
Well,
for this
you know,
midterm or
that's,
for this
you know,
election.
Preparation, and
Exactly.
you can actually register as long as it's not an election in between the time that you turn 18. And with that, we will continue on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the next one on the list is St. Germain. America votes. Excuse me.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mackenzie St. Germain. I'm the campaign director for the New Hampshire Campaign for Voting Rights and America Votes. I know this committee is familiar with this policy even before last year, and this chamber did pass the funding mechanism also for a portal. So this really carries the policy and some important guidelines for implementation and creation of this system. The version is nearly identical to the one passed out of the Senate and this committee last year. I did want to mention the one change that was made with a bipartisan amendment in the House that clarified in order to register with the portal, voters would need to show proof of identity, age, and domicile. This is something that has a precedent in other states too. These things could be verified with, for example, a New Hampshire ID that would happen through the website or through the portal and actually make it easier because people are able to have that at home, not worry about bringing in additional documents when they go to register. So I did want to mention that piece and say that I think they're, through the hopeful implementation of this, other states we can look to take best practices on using that proof of identity within the process. In addition to expanding access, as we know, this is, I think my name is never quite clearly written because I'm in a hurry. That is the case on many of the voter registration forms, making sure as we think about cleaning up lists that the information is going to be clearly written because it is typed in instead of written and maybe a long line of people behind you at the polls and then transcribed. Voters updating their information as soon as they move instead of moving and then maybe waiting 1 to 2 years to register again when it's the next general or midterm election. We hear a lot about people getting mail and the mail has been sent back because they don't live there anymore being able to update their, voter information as soon as they move, I think is a huge benefit. And then, of course, more people registering ahead of time, registering when they have new information, reducing the lines of people registering on election day. And again, needing to make sure they're bringing their documents and collecting everything with them to register day of. I think those are all big benefits for things that are, I think, priorities of this committee and the legislature as a whole. So we thank you for really ongoing work on this legislation. I know it's been years in the making, and really look forward to getting this done this year.
Questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you very
Thank you.
much. And Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm David Scanlon, Secretary of State, here in support of the concept of a voter portal. I am in total support of the version that you just recently passed the Senate. My belief is that the implementation of a voter portal should not change the current process of how a voter registers to vote. What the portal should do is streamline and improve the process to cut down time at the polling place and to improve the data collection by the supervisors of the checklist and the clerk in an electronic form so that they don't have to transfer handwritten, illegible information on a registration form and type that into the database. This would improve the accuracy and the speed in which all of that would take place. Specific to this bill, there is a change on line 16, number 2, where it says verification of citizenship shall be permitted by a sworn statement provided by the election information statement. I don't know why that's there, but it seems to me it would be just as easy for a voter if they needed to verify their citizenship, if they either show the documentation when they come face to face with a supervisor or the clerk, or they fill out the qualified voter affidavit, which that information would otherwise be obtained. Again, this is a process that would not change the current statutory process. The voter would still have to physically sign the registration form when they go to vote for the first time or make a special trip to visit the clerk or the supervisors of the checklist. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'll ask the first question. Would you provide the language that you'd like to see in that 16 through 18?
I think that sentence could simply be removed.
And leave it that way. Okay. Questions from the committee? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who's changed their mind and wants to speak? The online, 60 supported, 74 opposed. And with that, we will close the public hearing and open the next one in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we'll open the public hearing on House Bill 243. And come on up and introduce yourself in the bill.
Good morning, members of the committee. I am Representative Caitlin Kutab from Wintiam, and I'm here to introduce House Bill 243. This bill simply seeks to clarify that the counting and tabulation of votes shall be done in public. It was intended to be this way. It was worded that way in the voter's manual. However, because the statute was a bit ambiguous, some towns were not doing that. It also requires for the long tapes to be posted at the polling location. some polling locations are doing such, some are not. And the reason behind doing this is in Windham, we had our tabulation of votes not done in public. And as a result, when they went back and they thought that some math was wrong, they retabulated the votes in the clerk's office, which were incorrect and resulted in the primary winner being incorrect, which was later verified in a recount. And fortunately, in that case, because it was party on party, the candidate who had requested the recount didn't cancel the recount because it was beyond the deadline to request a recount when the correction was made. And so it was changed to the other person who had requested the recount being incorrectly called the winner. And that was noted in the AG's report, who did investigate the election. As a result, it ended up one candidate having 2,094 votes and the other one having 2,107 votes. And then when you went to the recount, it was actually that one candidate, the winning candidate, that was marked as having the 294 votes, actually had 211 votes, and the losing candidate had, he had 2,117 votes, and the other candidate had 2,109 votes. So I think it's really important that we're transparent. Our Constitution does say in there that the counting of votes shall be done in the presence of the selectmen and in the clerk and in public. So I think it's really important that while we're watching, and our town does this, right in the guardrail, we can see the hand counting of the ballots. If you're taking those tally sheets and then going to tabulate them all together in the back corner of a room, that's not very transparent because we could see you on the first step, but we can't see you on the second step. So I think it's really important, and I would really like to see my town out of the news for election issues. So I'm hoping that we can pass this bill, and I'm happy to take any questions on it.
Questions from committee members? Senator.
Thank you. The addition of the words "and tabulation" on line 2 of the bill. There's a town that I used to live in that they do this thing every election day where they close the polls and then they go to dinner for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And then they come back at 9 or 10 o'clock and then they announce the vote. Would this stop that from happening? Because it drives everybody crazy.
So this would stop them from posting. They would have to post the tapes within 60 minutes. So yeah, they would have to print them and post them, so they wouldn't be able to go to dinner. And we did verify the reason we use 60 minutes is because a couple of members from the committee checked with some of the moderators and clerks in Nashua and Derry to make sure that that was plenty of time for these tapes to be printed. So I don't believe that you're supposed to leave until the counting is actually completed. But yeah, they wouldn't be able to do that because they'd have to post the tapes within 60 minutes.
They don't leave if dinner brought in.
No, I believe they leave the building. It's no longer a town in my district, so I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
And now you won't
Enough-
have to wait until 1 a.m. to
Enough
find
to
out
be
some
said
results.
that that's a violation of the state law anyway, so. Senator Perkins Cook, you had a question?
Would you believe that in my primary, in one of the wards, actually an error in the counting was picked up by one of my friends because the long tapes were posted in the hallway? So I agree with your, with this move.
Thank you very much. I would believe that.
Senator Susie.
I just want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So it would be for the individual polling location. So for example, in the city of Manchester, each of the wards would be required to comply with the posting and the results. Does the Secretary of State then have to do the same, excuse me, not the Secretary of State, the city clerk then have to do the same thing? And how would the 60-minute apply to them as they're aggregating?
So the 60 minutes only applies to the long tapes because, as you know, a lot of times, some
locate.
towns post them right away, some don't, and we're waiting until 2 a.m. to find results that probably we could have known much earlier. We did use the wording here for if there was a a polling place or a central polling location, because some of the towns individually count and some of them bring everything, like Salem brings them all together to count them at
Okay.
a central polling location, just so that we were clear in here, this applies. Yeah,
Okay, I just wanted to be, so in Manchester, each of the wards would have to comply.
correct.
And then the city clerk in aggregating would then release results in the normal timely fashion that he does. Okay.
Correct.
Great.
Additional questions from the other senators before I start? Okay, long tape is a problem. You've just passed House Bill 154, which makes the provisions for the new voting machines. Long tape is an AccuVote euphemism or description of the one that they do. It needs to comply with 154 if we are to do what it says here, because there is no long tape on the two other machines that are supported. Certainly, I believe that the best practice is for the moderator to make available the tape as soon as the tape is printed. Maybe not the first copy out of the machine, but the second or third one ought to be there for people to review. So again, whether it's how you do the report is fine. There are moderators who don't want to show that tape because with the number of ballots, especially if people intentionally overvote so that their ballot gets hand counted in some communities and other things, a large number of write-in votes, so that they're hesitant to provide those preliminary results. The state statute says you need to provide the results before you leave the polls. So I'm not worried about that, but if we're looking at that first tape, I'll let you comment on any of that.
So, it does say the long tapes in regards to 65975 too, and I believe that the towns are still allowed in the meantime to use the AccuVote machines until a time where they decide to transition to the other machines.
Yeah, but I'm putting this into the new law, and I believe that the governor has already signed 154. If not, he is about to. So it needs to conform. So the words long tape need to come out and be replaced by something if this is to go forward. So I'll let you work on that.
Okay, I'm just checking to see if I'm not sure if that particular section was changed by House Bill 154.
Well, we're not going to act on this today anyway, Representative, so
Okay,
I'll give you time, but it needs to be consistent with the other things that we've done on the new machines, so.
okay, yeah, so I see it in here. We'll just make it say results report. That's fine.
And you may want to think about, saying, the machine report, which is preliminary or something like that, to distinguish it from the final report that the moderator is still required to do, as they close the polls.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this was just meant to be the machine report. Some of the towns post them right away, some of them don't, and I think that that's caused some concern with transparency in terms of, well, why in this town do they post it and this town doesn't? Or are they trying to hide something? And I think part of it was exactly as you said. They wanted to aggregate everything together, but I just, for the sake of transparency, I don't see any reason why it can't be posted. If we have the information, people can see it. It's not the final report. They're what came out of the machines. And I think most people that are staying that late at the election know that they still needed to be added together. But I'm happy to work on an amendment to make that clear, that it's the results report.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm David Scanlon, Secretary of State, and I support this bill. The one comment that I wanted to address was one that you raised, Mr. Chairman, about adding language for a results report as opposed to just the long tape. And the reason for that is the Ballot Law Commission has given conditional approval to 2 new ballot counting devices. One of them, made by Voting Works, has met the conditions of that approval, and they are going to be used in 5 towns in today's election. And that device does not print out a long tape that we've seen from the AccuVote or the Dominion device, which also obtained the conditional approval. Instead, it will print the results out on a nice 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which local election officials really, really like. In terms of when to post those results, our guidance in our training is to try and get the total official result from the polling place and post that so that there's no confusion about what is being posted. And if we are going to post the results report or the long tape on the wall before the other hand count votes are added in, we have to make it crystal clear to the people that are observing those results that that is not the final count, that will be announced at the end of the night. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the senators? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Is there anyone who's changed their mind and wants to testify? Seeing none. Online, there was 5 in support, 1 opposed. And with that, we'll close the public hearing. I don't have anything else, and we're working on those other items. So I don't see any reason to go back into executive session unless you senators have something that you need to be done. Okay, so with that, our business today being complete, we are adjourned.
Great.